Enzo Fernández just returned to Chelsea, and Chelsea just made sure he understood exactly where he stands. Not with a statement or a headline, with something far colder. He came back from a World Cup final expecting to be treated like a man who had just proven his worth on the biggest stage in football. Instead, he walked into Cobham and found a club that had already moved on without him. That is the blow. Not a transfer saga, not a public argument. A silence that speaks louder than any announcement Chelsea could make. And once you see what was happening while he was away, that silence starts to look deliberate. Rewind a few months. Enzo's camp believed they held real power. Champions League ambitions. A release valve at Real Madrid if Chelsea ever refused to improve his deal. That leverage only worked on one condition. Chelsea had to be afraid of losing him. They are not afraid anymore. While Enzo was chasing a trophy with Argentina, Xabi Alonso was quietly rebuilding the exact position Enzo has occupied for 2 seasons. Not gradually, deliberately. And the timing could not be worse for the player walking back through the door believing nothing had changed. Because everything has changed. Here is what makes this brutal. A manager who wants to keep a player builds around him. A manager preparing for life without that player builds a team that simply does not need him anymore. Reports out of Cobham describe exactly that second scenario. Rotations engineered without Enzo at the center. A tactical framework that no longer assumes he is untouchable. Nobody at Chelsea has said his future is in doubt. Nobody needs to. Clubs do not announce these decisions. They just make them, and let the player discover it the hard way. The realization may already be his. Sources close to the club describe something colder than conflict. Indifference. He trained. He said the right things, and on the surface, nothing looked wrong. But according to those same sources, he was left out of a tactical session reserved for Chelsea's senior midfielders, built around the exact role he has spent 2 years defending as his own. Read that again. That is not a benching. That is a message delivered without a word, precisely so nobody could call it a scandal. Chelsea do not need to tell Enzo Fernández he is replaceable. They just have to stop treating him like he isn't, and let him work out the rest for himself. Now stack the damage. Real Madrid already slammed one door shut in July, publicly denying any interest in signing him. That was supposed to be his backup plan. A second door may be closing too. The dressing room itself. The place he once assumed would always need him. No leverage abroad, no leverage at home, just a contract running until 2032, and a manager already proving the team does not collapse without him. Indispensable players get new contracts handed to them. Replaceable ones get told to be patient. Enzo Fernández just found out which one Chelsea currently believe he is. This next part should terrify him most. 2 goals at the World Cup made his case. He was central to Argentina's run to the final, and he walked back into Chelsea convinced that performance had raised his stock. Internally, it barely registered. Valentin Barco has arrived and Moises Caicedo is untouchable in midfield. Romeo Lavia is recovering and waiting for exactly the kind of minutes Enzo assumed were permanently his. None of that rebuild happened because of him. All of it happened despite him. Without saying a word, the club may be proving something to its own dressing room right now. The team wins with or without special treatment for Enzo Fernández. Before we go further, subscribe, because what happens to Enzo over the next month could define the rest of his Chelsea career, and almost nobody is talking about it yet. Here is the layer that makes this even darker. Player power only works when a club fears losing that player more than the player fears losing his platform. That balance has completely flipped. Right now, Enzo needs Chelsea more than Chelsea need him. Not because his talent vanished, it hasn't, but because every option that once gave him confidence has quietly slipped away. Madrid said no. The midfield has been rebuilt around other names. A transfer request now looks less like power and more like surrender. The real shock is this. Not one incident, but the collapse of every escape route at once. Could this reverse? Absolutely. Nothing here is confirmed by Chelsea. No official has said Enzo is being pushed out, and this could simply be squad rotation colliding with bad timing. But intent rarely matters to a player watching his role get redistributed without warning. Whether Chelsea meant to send a message or not, Enzo Fernández is receiving one anyway. Return from a World Cup final expecting leverage and gratitude. Expect a club desperate to keep you happy. Instead, find a manager building without you. 2 closed exits, and a contract that guarantees Chelsea complete control until 2032. No scandal, no blow-up. Something far more unsettling for a player who thought he had already secured his power. It is the sound of a club moving on without ever needing to say goodbye. And for Enzo Fernández, that silence may be the most brutal blow of all.